Explanation. Sometimes the seawater is very close to the coast and at other times it is far away from the coast. This natural phenomenon is called high tide and low tide respectively. Barring a few exceptions, all the coasts on the earth experience tide. Tides are movement of seawater occurring daily and regularly. The rise or fall in the level of sea waters caused by the combined effects of centrifugal force associated with seawater and the gravitation pull of the moon and the sun. The rise in the level is called high tide and the fall is called low tide. After every 12 hours and 25 minutes, a cycle of high tide and low tide gets completed. The level of seawater changes after a specific period of time. The regularly occurring events of high tide and low tide appear to be quite simple and natural. Tides are directly related to the sun, the moon and the earth, and also the gravitational and centrifugal forces that interact between them. Let's try one small experiment. Take half a glass of water. Slowly move the glass in one direction in circular fashion. Observe what happens to the water. Where did the water in the glass show a bulge? Which forces could be operating in above activity? In the above activity, the effect of the centrifugal force acts in the direction opposite to the gravitational force. Centrifugal means going away from the center. Centrifugal and gravitational force. Centrifugal force, the power or force that the earth gets due to its rotation, is called centrifugal force. This force works away from the center of the earth. This is a force that leads to the movement away from the center. Gravitational force. In any two objects, there exists an attraction towards each other. This is called gravitational force. The gravitational force depends on the mass of the two objects and the distance that separates them. The planets revolving around the Sun along their specific orbits is the combined effects of the gravitational force of the Sun and centrifugal force associated with the planets. Tides. The following factors are responsible for the occurrence of tides: the gravitational pull of the moon and the sun as well as that of the earth, revolution of the earth around the sun and the indirect revolution of the moon around the sun, centrifugal force generated due to the rotation of earth. Tides occur due to the relative positions of the moon, the sun and the earth. The moon is closer to the earth than the sun, hence its gravitational force becomes more effective than that of the sun. Types of tide. As the timing of the tide varies every day, the range of a tide also keeps on changing. There are two types of tide. First, spring tide. 2. Neap tide. Spring tides. The high or low tide occurring on the full moon and the new moon days. As the sun and the moon are on the same side of the earth, on this, that is, new moon day, maximum tidal range is observed. The tidal range on full moon day is also high, but it is somewhere less than that on new moon day. Neap tides. The range of tides is lowest on the first and third quarter days. On these days, the sun and the moon are positioned at right angles to each other with respect to the earth, and hence the forces of their attraction do not complement each other. Intertidal zone. The difference in the water level of the high tide and the low tide is called tidal range. In open seas, the range is about 30 centimeters. Towards the coastal areas, it goes on increasing. the highest tidal range in the world is observed at Bay of Fundy along the Atlantic coast of North America. Here, the tidal range is about 1,600 centimeters. In India, the highest tidal range is in the Gulf of Khambat. It is about 1,100 centimeters. Effects of tides. 1. With the high tide, fish move into the creeks and this helps fishing activity. 2. The tides clear the waste and hence the coasts become clean. 3. Ports do not get filled with sediments. 4. Ships can move up to the ports during high tide. 5. During high tide, seawater can be stored in salt pans from which salt can be obtained. 6. The tidal force can be used to generate electricity. 7. A lack of an understanding of the timings of high and low tides may cause accidents to swimmers entering the sea. 8. The tides help in maintaining the mangroves and the coastal biodiversity. Timings of the tides change daily. The tides are continuously occurring phenomenon. After reaching the maximum water level, during high tide, the low tide sets in. Similarly, after reaching the lowest water level during low tide, the high tide sets in. Waves. The seawater gets pushed by the wind and ripples are generated on the water surface. These are called waves. The seawater moves up and down or slightly forward and backward due to the waves. The waves bring energy contained in them to the coast. Large or small waves are formed continuously at the surface of the sea. Generation of waves is a natural and regularly occurring phenomenon. Structure of waves. The raised up portion of a wave is called crest and the depressed one is called trough. The vertical distance between a crest and the following trough is called the amplitude of the wave. The distance between two successive crests or troughs is called wavelength. The wavelength, its amplitude and its velocity depends on the velocity of wind. Velocity of waves. The water in the wave does not move. What moves is energy. The main reason of wave generation is wind. At times, waves are also generated due to earthquakes or volcanic eruption occurring below the floor of the sea. Tsunami. Destructive waves of great height that are generated due to earthquake or volcanic eruption occurring below the floor of the sea are called tsunami. Tsunami waves cause huge loss of property and life. At the time of risk of tsunami, it is better to go away from the coasts or towards higher altitudes. The waves cause erosion along the headlands. Do you know? It's very important. While moving along the sea coast or playing in the water, we must take adequate care regarding the timings of the tides. For this, we must know the phase of the moon on that day. We must collect information from local people and learn from them about the structure of the coast, its slope, rocky areas, as well as the streams near the coast.